There's this assumption that if you're going to be strong, jacked and muscular, you probably can't be very flexible.
They used to say, oh, I have double chin. I was a guy who used to be double face.
You were bullied?
Oh, a lot.
A lot.
A lot, a lot.
Sorry, I just want to get this out there. Running for weight loss, especially if, say, you are a little overweight,
Is injurious.
is so injurious. It's the worst logical thing you can do.
If you have a kid around who can only crawl, can't even walk, whatever the kid does, do it for an hour and then ask me, do you really need that gym to do those 120 kilo squats? You might not need it. It's not that sin to be oversized,
Yeah.
First accept that.
People have this misconception that if you're thin, you're healthy.
Bro, you have all kind of a drug for a month, you will be thin. Are you healthy? Breath. The answer is breath.
Breathe through your muscle. And I used to just be like, bro, what the does that even mean? Welcome everyone to another episode of The Overcorrection. Today we are speaking with a very dear friend of mine, Ritesh Shaiwal. He is a Under Armour athlete. He is a triathlete. He has represented India on the Netflix show Ultimate Beastmaster, which is an obstacle course based show. He's done a lot of really incredible things.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. The Overcorrection Pod.
The Overcorrection podcast.
I love the name, man.
Thank you. And of course, we got to the name a lot from a aspect of overcorrecting in health and fitness. Yeah.
I tell you.
And we see that all the time. We see people take things too far. We see people create problems when there were none before out of good intentions.
Yeah, well said, yeah.
And I think that is actually very sad to see. And I think spotting those and being aware that this is something that can happen is something like we always talk about on the show, whether it's with relation to health, whether it's relation to, say, your politics or anything else. But Ritesh, when I first met him, I saw this guy at the pool, just jacked looking guy with tight chaddi shorts and visor, swimming goggles, and I was like, man, this guy is for sure on steroids.
And you were equally ripped, I remember.
That time, yeah. But I was not so big.
Yeah.
And I think when people see people who are big and have
they have a notion.
thick muscle, they have this assumption that they're on steroids.
Yeah.
And I'd seen people like that before, but then when I saw you in the gym and you were carrying this amount of muscle, but at the same time able to jump into full splits, do handstand walks, be extremely agile and full of a fluidity that I don't see in a lot of people who are carrying a lot of muscle, is when I really thought to myself that, I need to figure this out. Because there's this assumption that if you're going to be strong, jacked and muscular, you probably can't be very flexible. You can't be mobile. Maybe you can't be cardiovascularly strong.
Yeah.
And I think you, as what I like to say as a hybrid athlete, really made me think that, this is a goal worth striving for.
I remember our conversation from extending from where you left is, we were having this conversation, we were done with our swimming session and me and Rohan were walking back home. And the one thing that came out of my mouth is that the human body and mind should always be in a cheetah state of mind. When we were talking about that in English, we are talking about hybrid athletes.
Yeah.
All the animals are hybrid athletes.
Yeah, so a cheetah doesn't warm up before it goes and hunts a deer.
Cheetah doesn't warm up before it eats or hunts its prey, Imagine a human body, that's what we say, that train like an athlete. It doesn't matter if you're a fat person or a fit person or an intermediate person. If the objective is all 5-7 components of fitness, you touch everything and then you get a result wherein people like Rohan, who's equally into fitness, get surprised and say, how can this be possible? Guy with such huge amount of muscle mass can do every element of fitness,
Yes.
And it reminds me a conversation about Djokovic that I was having other day with somebody, and my friend told me that when he covers the ground, he is able to go into a full split standing, and then when you observe Djokovic, I can see the training methodology that has been gone into that person. That person is not only fit, he is fit with every single component of fitness.
Yes.
Whether you talk about his muscle mass, whether you talk about his mobility, his strength. I was watching the match yesterday, man. that person is thriving on overall fitness. Is just not a fit guy who plays tennis.
Yeah.
He is a fit guy who can play other sport later down his life, because he's an athlete. He trains like an athlete. He also, if you see his postures, his forms, his correction, what he does on the court, it's a brilliant example of end range mobility.
I mean, when he's picking up a ball, he's 2-3 inches off the ground in the split.
Absolutely.
And able to push off that split. I think that's what they look at passive flexibility versus mobility. And Djokovic, when he's picking up a drop shot, is a prime example of being in a split position, but being under so much force and pressure and speed at that point that most just passively flexible people's muscles would crumble. They would snap something at that point.
The thing is, what I realized in early stage is that lengthening of a muscle is about strengthening of a muscle. Lengthening is the new strengthening.
Yeah.
And I think I was a little bit decently flexible and when I was a kid, but I don't know what made me pursue what I was pursuing. Is I started doing weight training to begin with, like we always start. So I'll tell you a short story. When I was in class 10th, I said it in one of my interviews. People used to say, oh, I have double chin. I was a guy who used to be double face. Not even there are people who are oversized but with a great amount of muscle mass. I was not one of them. I was actually hesitant from people being close to the people so that they don't touch me, because I was like, if you touch me like this, I will get bruises. You
felt soft.
I felt soft. That was the ultimate reality. And gradually things started changing. You start knowing the world better, you start knowing yourself better. And my inspiration, I always say, is dragged from my elder brother, who used to go to the gym very regularly, and I was a fat kid, as I've told. My evening snacks was always do samosa, ek plate chaat, and thumbs up. It doesn't go anywhere. It never used. And 2.5 years, no joke, no awareness. Again, what happened is that I started getting motivated.
You were bullied?
Oh, a lot.
A lot.
I always said in multiple interviews, it's a blessing in disguise, because you get to know the hard shit early in your life, so that you are mentally prepared for the worst that can happen. Then you realize, oh, this is not the worst. The worst has happened a lot back in the day, So I'm absolutely okay with that. And I want to say that it's a part of my being what I am. Otherwise, I would not have been,
Yeah.
I always say, glass is always half full. You say half empty, I say half full.
Not to say that being bullied is the only way to get motivated, but for whatever it worked out in your life, you'd much rather have been bullied than changed your behavior.
Yes, you do feel bad about it, but the sooner you accept that the course of the action that you need to determine for yourself will change your life for good in future, determines the solidarity of an individual, So I didn't know all this, but I'm always a solution-oriented kind of a guy. Ho gaya na, ab kar diya na, ab karna kya hai? So that karna kya hai, Rohan, brought me here and got me in touch with people like you who want to actually know people's life and want to keep it very basic and simple. And I get invited on these podcasts, and I'm so happy to share this, because I know for a fact that there are so many people like me who doesn't speak up their journey, and who doesn't even accept the fact which way, which form, what kind they have been bullied. And we are not endorsing being bullied is only one kind of motivation in order to change life, but acceptance of what you need to do is something which will determine the person that you will be. So I'm happy with whatever happened, and yeah, man, thank you for having me in the show, wherein the listeners can see, listen, watch, share, and please share your experiences around this, because in our country or globally, weight loss or overweight or being obese is looked down upon. And I always refer to, first, if I'm not wrong, what's the name of the brand?
Calvin Klein?
Calvin Klein triple XL brand campaign. which is only for oversize. It's not that sin to be oversized. First accept that.
Yeah.
You need to be, as we always say in yoga, you need to be comfortable in your own body.
Oh, of course.
I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't want to look like Frank Medrano. We are all different people who have their different mindset, different thought, different goals.
And
So, yeah.
people, we spoke about this before on the show. People have this misconception that if you're thin, you're healthy.
Not really.
I mean, it's an indicator of one type of health.
Bro, you have all kind of a drug for a month, you will be thin. Are you healthy? It's straight up, man. It fucks up your BMR. Your bones become brittle. You look lean. You would look amazing on camera, but what is inside is absolutely brittle.
Yeah, and in fact, I've seen this with people who actually go through a weight loss journey, actually, now that you mention it. They may be 20, 30 kgs overweight. They'll reach their body weight, but no, now they're obsessed.
Yeah.
Now the healthy body weight they have is not enough. If they've cut from 100 kgs down to 70 kgs, now if they go up to 73, they'll panic. They'll start compromising on getting enough protein to cut down fat. They'll start doing really unhealthy things and overcorrect on being thin is not the only thing you need to do to look after your health.
Absolutely. That brings me here to a very simple point. Guys, if you're listening, please keep your mind open. It's not about weight loss. Let's start with that. We think about numbers. Oh, I'm 110. I want to be 90 kilos. The moment you start changing that, saying, no, I want to lose inches. Inch loss. Talk about inch loss. Talk about fat loss. Talk about muscle gain. Because these are the investment for the future that you're doing inside your own body. The whole journey of weight loss misguides you in a direction where you're saying, okay, मैं क्या करूँगा? मैं ना 1 महीने कार्डियो करता हूँ. And you listening would have done it. मैं 1 महीने कार्डियो करता हूँ. Yes, you will lose weight. Hell yes, you will lose weight. But what is happening to the body? Go to an orthopedician and check it out. What is happening to your bone when you are just doing your cardio stuff?
And people pick the worst form of cardio.
Running on the treadmill.
Running on treadmill.
They're not even ready to go out. Running on the treadmill because the building has an amazing gym. Bro, building has an amazing racetrack as well. Building has an amazing grass as well. You have outdoors, So it all comes down to how you structure it in your brain. So then weight loss follows.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, I just want to get this out there. Running for weight loss, especially if, say, you are a little overweight,
is injurious.
Is so injurious. It's the worst logical thing you can do. You're putting like 5-6 times your body weight into each plant of your foot when you run.
Absolutely.
And you're doing this when you're overweight.
There are two things to look here. You're 100 kilos or else you're 80 kilos. You want to run 5 kilometers and you don't want to give time for that. As in, when I say time, is that it will happen during like 3 months. Take a progressive training and then you go for it. On top of that, the one thing I always say, we sum up, I personally believe fitness can be summed up, or well-being can be summed up in 3 letters, A, B, and C. Align, breathe, control.
Okay.
When you're talking about anyone who is running, not only obese, if the alignment is not right, you are knocking at the orthopedician door every single week. Yeah. Remember what happened? Like, Rohan is a fit guy. We were doing a handstand practice and he was like, bro, I am having pain here. I said, okay, mobilize it. But if you actually dig deep into it, the bones, the muscles were not ready in order to take that inverted pressure on his hand
while walking and
doing. So it's common sensical thing,
Yeah.
Align, breathe, control, pursue your fitness journey. With these parameters, you would not have injuries.
So I always like to explain to people when they say that, oh, I have a weak rotator cuff. It's a very common problem with shoulder pain. My rotator cuff is weak. Now, what does this mean? I always try to say, like, does that mean that, say, my wife who weighs 50 kgs and doesn't have any shoulder pain at all, does this mean her rotator cuff is stronger than mine?
Yeah.
Obviously, my rotator cuff is stronger, right?
Yeah.
What it means is that my rotator cuff is not relatively as strong, say, compared to my chest. And it's not
That's where the
balancing it
compensation
out.
is happening.
And that's where the compensation. So when people say it's all about, like you said, aligning, my rotator cuff strength has to be aligned with my pectoral strength.
Absolutely.
And it's not this absolute term. That's why also just looking at weight as a number is such a bad idea, because it will not align with all the 10 other things you have to
Bro,
be looking at.
if somebody is 110 kilos with a muscle mass of 60 kgs, okay? What do you think as a lifestyle coach, as a mentor, or as a guide, my job should be to make him realize, bro, you can do so much that major of the population in our country across the world can't do it. I would start guiding that person into lifting, into mobility, because you're not blessed especially as an Indian, we are not blessed to be so big with such a huge muscle mass. It's like I'm looking at an opportunity to optimize that human body. I'm not here to, okay, you want a weight loss, you would 110 kilos, we'll bring it to 80 kilos. What are you doing with that 60 kilo of muscle mass?
You don't wither it away. Yeah.
That. You don't realize that. Coming back to your point on the rotator cuff is that, we are actually became bipedal and bilateral species. We have the ability to function unilaterally.
As quadrupeds.
Unilaterally, every single limbs in the hands, everything should be trained individually. That's where the alignment comes from. What we do is that, again, let's dig deeper into that rotator cuff thing that you're talking about.
Okay.
You go, chest workout, I am doing a bench press, then I do a fly, then I do some bilateral push-ups. Where's one hand going in? Why aren't you training in everything individually? Because the moment you start doing single hand dumbbell press, you are integrating the whole muscle chain in your whole body. You are engaging a spine and the core in order to lift this. So what it does is, it actually doesn't put a lot of pressure on the muscles which are not required to feel that pressure.
Okay.
So what it does is that it integrates the human body, shift the load evenly around the human body. So it saves you from injury and imbalances that you were talking about.
But people are just too addicted to that bench number.
Yeah, absolutely. That 99% of the human population is about how much the fitness is determined by the vanity, and when I say vanity, is about the amount of weight that you lift. Obviously, if you're lifting with one hand, you won't be able to do a dumbbell press with 10 kgs.
Yeah.
Is the reality. But as a species, what we are going into a rat race where we have to do this and 3 sets, 12, 8, 6 to 8, 12, 10, 8, ho gaya mera. Where's the activation? Where's the optimization? Where's the integration?
And I think what is surprising, which people will find if they try it, is that at least aesthetically and definitely performance-wise, you will get far more gain from doing this.
Bro, you were talking about simple thing at the starting of when you were introducing about the show and me, is that how this guy is jacked and people are thinking that he's in roids, right? Bro, that is a training aspect that changed a lot in my brain, which changed in my body, training unilaterally, right? Because you won't be able to do a single leg squat until and unless you are mobile with your hip. You have a great range in your hip. You have a great range in your hamstring. You have an amazing coordination with your upper torso. You think about, okay, I'm able to do a single leg squat, but it's a lower body workout. No, it's integrated. Now, my question I always say is that if you're able to earn that, go for the progression.
Yes.
Go for the heavy lifts. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, train like an athlete, then you start thinking like an athlete. Because Ritesh was doing 120 kg of squat. Rohan should at least do 80. No, Rohan should not do any. Rohan should do single leg squat.
Yes.
And then when I want to see Rohan, he would be doing 160 kgs of squat, more than Ritesh. Because he learned from the fact that if you start integrating a lot of muscle in one movement, you optimize human body, you optimize human brain, and you optimize human muscle belly.
Yep. I think for the lower body, at least the single leg squat is one of the most underrated exercises.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much it can do for everything from your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips.
Having said that, people have a very wrong misconception about any form of single leg squat is a big deal. Let's start from there. It's not a big deal. Bro, it starts with, can you stand on your right and left leg for 1 minute each? Yes. Does it get any simpler than this? That's why this show is named as Overcorrection.
Yeah, because
we don't want to do it. Can you stand on one leg? Then can you hinge from there? Then can you lower down your butt? I'm breaking that simple thing into 3 steps, which you can do every time you brush your teeth. Can you brush your teeth standing on your left leg? Think about it. We talk about what we see. You talked about what you saw. People talk about, which is the roids that he has taken. Bro, if you get the training methodology is very simple. You have no idea how muscle and brain performs. And I always say muscle and brain, muscle and brain, muscle and brain. Rather brain and muscle, the other way around.
You do a lot of free play type workouts, right? You
Yeah.
do a lot of hangs. You've done, what is your longest hang?
Once I hung, not dead hang, but I was hanging for 12 minutes. So when I say I was hanging like this, then I was hanging on one hand, hanging on the other one, hanging on my legs. So again, this is what you're talking about, play. Yes, because I'm a child and I want to be that. I don't want to miss that child in me.
I think we condition it out of children, because I remember when I was a kid and when I see kids right now, if you just put something for them around them to hang, they'll be climbing that stuff all over. And right now you take an average adult would not be able to do the monkey bars.
Do this thing. You, as well as you guys listening, okay? If you have a kid around who can only crawl, can't even walk, okay? Sit in one corner of the room, okay? And observe the kid. Whatever the kid does, do it for an hour. Do it for an hour and then talk to me and then ask me, do you really need that gym to do those 120 kilo squats? You might not need it.
You'd be surprised.
You
yes.
would be fucking surprised that why suddenly the whole fitness industry is talking about mobility is the new flexibility and mobility is the new strength, you know? But that's where we were talking about Djokovic, end range mobility. End range mobility is the best example of strength.
Yeah. That's where you're otherwise at risk. And people are not realizing how much, like in our building, there's no monkey bars for kids.
Yeah.
There's a 10 lakh rupee treadmill, but there is no monkey bars for the kids.
And that's the case with most of the gyms here.
Yeah.
Because nobody's teaching you functionality. Everybody is teaching you depending on one equipment and modality, because you are getting paid from the people who are making it. I was watching, I would not name it, and I was like, you being such a big presenter across the world, what you are training people is, you have 100 Versa climbers inside one room, and 100 people are doing just a machine-based thing. Can these guys afford those machines? Does that make them independent as a human being? Do they have that much money to buy and put it in their house? Or else you want to make them dependent on yourself, so that you say, okay, 11 a.m. every Sunday there is a Versa climber class with X. Please come for the class. Great motivation. But how do you change that pattern so that they can become more independent?
Yep.
They can become more informative. There's no harm in doing it.
How many people do you know, Ritesh, who, when you ask them, hey, how's it going? Like, yeah, it's going well, man. I was working out, but I stopped. My trainer, he went back to his hometown. It's like, what does that have to do with you training?
Yeah. So, it's like you're going to a doctor, and then you have a consultation every 30 days or 20 days, right? Now, doctor is not available. What do? You do the things that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You eat the medication because doctor ने कहा है, doctor आपको phone पे बोलेगा कि just whatever medication I have given you, just carry it for a week, I'll be back. Yeah, you do the stuff. The doctor has asked you to get up and do some walk and whatever. Let's restrict to the medication part. You do that, right? Now, when it comes to training, I feel for my trainees to begin with. The moment I address or I start a conversation with my client, who will be my client, who will be my trainee rather, who will be my student, whatever. I want to make sure one thing is that I know their psychology.
Okay.
Because they have come to you so that you can take them to a next level. You go to a doctor when something has happened to you. You go to an orthopedician with something is bothering you. You go to a physical trainer when you are absolutely fine. Imagine the level of the trust that the trainee has for the coach that he is appointing. You need to first address the fact within you that that guy has a trust in me.
And take ownership.
Take ownership. Once you have taken ownership, then only you can make him accountable or her accountable. If you have not taken the ownership, if you don't feel for that, how can you make him accountable? Because why am I saying that? Because this is very personal to me, because you are dealing with the human body, which is absolutely safe and sound.
So it's actually your responsibility
It's
to
your
make
responsibility.
sure this person will train even if you're not there.
That's the expectation that needs to be cleared, because we want to make our trainees, our student, as independent as we can, because we are not. But then it's all commercial. Yeah, you might love me as much as you do,
And
but
everyone wants to make a living. But the point is, I think people have a very short-term view.
what happens after 3 months of transformation of a lot of people? They fall flat. I'm referring to a show called Biggest Loser. One of my friend won that show. But what happened with 99? When I talked to him, 99% of people came back to that same reality. So what we're talking about is not only a 3 months transformation that we're talking about. What we're talking about is sustainability of those transformation. What we're talking about is how can we ensure that when I am as a coach not present, he is more efficient than when I was there with him. Because that's what you do when you actually do a regular education. Your teacher who was in class 1 doesn't remain with you in class 12th. Why? Because you don't need him. He doesn't need you. He needs to churn his batches. He needs to have new people so that he can make more contribution. He can change more lives.
Yeah. And just a message to people getting into training, just as you don't just hand over your financial planning to someone without having some oversight and some understanding of it, same so with your health and fitness. It's not just someone else's job to get you fit.
Yeah.
It will always be your response. It's your body.
Yeah, so it's a very, very, very different situation, because somebody. But I always say, you are dealing with the human body. You need to first take that ownership. Yes, I understand from a client point of view that client wants to be fit. But why I'm saying that you need to take that ownership as a coach, because you eventually have to make that person accountable. And it will not happen if you talk about human psyche, right? When you talk about student and a teacher, if a student takes that ownership, that no, this student, I want to do best for him, then you actually combine two forces together and optimize the result that comes out, right? So when we talk about accountability, it's trainees' accountability to do so, but you need to make him or her realize that, you know what, you would be achieving your goal. I am there for you, but not for your lifetime, because I want you to mature in your goals. Right now, your goal is your transformation. Now, next goal, let's plan out the goals. Like next goal can be your Ironman. Next goal can be something like I want to do now work on my. I want to learn one skill now.
Or play a sport.
Play a sport. Now, when you are referring like that, I want Rohan to play a sport, because back in the day, I know that he was an amazing football player. I want to get him back. That place, you don't need me. You needed me for that conditioning part. You have a specific different coach for football training. Do that. So what I'm trying to say is that we were taught back in the day that reference is very important. What do I mean is, I'm not a jack of all trades. If you have an issue in which I can't treat, I would hand you over to a physical therapist. I would not catch hold कि हम ही मैं ही कर दूंगा. That's the ultimate reality. What is happening?
Is that
Everybody
happening
knows
with
everything.
trainers?
It is. It is. You don't know everything. We don't know everything. First, you accept that part, and then start referring it, and then again, it's about also a client and a trainer's trust that builds over the years. That I'm not there, the trainee or the trainer. Yeah, this is your program. Please follow the program. Keep sending me a feedback on a fortnightly or a weekly basis. That's how you actually make them independent. Start drafting your program. Actually, after this podcast, I have to draft a complete training plan for one of my students who wants to do Ironman. And I want to make him accountable. I'm giving him and I'm asking him to keep sending me feedback after every 7 days. So what is happening? He doesn't need my physical presence. So and one thing as coaches that we all do is draft and document your programs.
Okay.
Yeah, after a point, I'll tell you my story. I don't do that much, right? But I would love to get that discipline in order to make people more independent, rather than saying कि okay, मैं आपको वही सेट कराऊंगा, खड़ा होकर मैं गिनती कर रहा हूँ 1 से 12 और फिर 10 से 1 और फिर 8 से 10 आपकी ट्रेनिंग हो गई, चेस्ट के 4 सेट थे। यार ये तो सबको पता है यार। मतलब if you ask anybody what are the 4 exercises for chest, back, bicep and whatever, everybody knows. So what is the difference that you're making in, you know?
How are you systematically progressing that?
How you're systematically progressing? How are you making it? How you're not overcorrecting it? How you are keeping it to basics?
How do you know that you're not going too far?
Yeah. How you? Bilkul, bilkul.
In fact, there are actually all these, for every amount that you bench press, you should be able to do a certain amount on the rotator cuff.
क्या बात है? Very true. Because that is your antagonist muscle, which helps you to push that.
And there
weight.
are actual documented scientific findings that say that, you know, for every 10 kgs you push, you want to be able to retract back 2 kgs. These are not the exact numbers, but these numbers are there. And a trainer, if you're not documenting things, how will you know that you're keeping everything in balance?
Yeah, so trainers who wants to do well in this industry, it's a great piece of advice. Please document, draft your training programs. We used to do back in the day. I used to make 16 training programs in a day. You know, so please document it. It will help you. It sets a great professional ground.
And there was a time when the types of workouts you did, you know, like just play-based workouts, they would naturally be based on your body's joint mechanics. So this chance of like having a crazy strong chest without having the required developed rotator cuff muscle did not come into play. If you were pushing something, you were also hanging. You know, you were doing all these things as part of the natural movement. That's why natural movements tend to iron your body out. But now you go to a gym that allows you just to have an isolated chest press machine, and you could throw your chest back balance off very easily.
Forces me to refer to my phrase, which I always say, is that your mind doesn't understand muscle, it understands movement.
Correct.
Move your bicep.
Yep.
Elbow flexion.
Yeah.
So that's as simple as it is. If your mind doesn't understand muscle, it understands movement. So there's more reason to actually adopt natural movement pattern. You see suddenly there's a guy who's climbing up the trees and making Instagram stories. Bro, we used to do 20 years back when you were a child, when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You're bringing this back, and it's just that you are packaging it well. And it's very informative. It's very important for the society to know what they have forgotten. And that's where I give credit to these people.
Yeah, people don't want to climb trees because like, oh, it's not a chest workout or it's not a back
Bro,
workout.
forget that. Today's class. I was taking a class today wherein I asked somebody to be on their knees, and then do a press. We have deteriorated like a species, which is so sad that our knees are not even conditioned to sit on the floor.
It hurts.
You do a Padmasan and sit on the floor, you say, oh, my ankle bone is hurting. Bro, it's not conditioned. Let's start from there. It's that simple. Somebody asked me, sir, alignment के लिए मैं क्या करूँ, मेरी ना lower back की alignment मैं ना पद्मासन में आधे घंटे बैठूँ. Not overcorrecting. Going back to the basics like yoga. You know, you have no idea what it does. And I'm saying we have no idea because I have experienced sitting in one posture for hours.
At Vipassana?
At Vipassana. It's just something which gets me a goosebump right now, but I cannot explain it.
No matter what you feel, you're just supposed to let it be.
Breath. The answer is breath. So again, that's what I keep referring to the show name, overcorrection. Think about it. Have you ever spoken to your own breath in the life that you have lived? That's where all the correction, all the healing is. Even if you want to do 100 kg bench press, I'm giving you a simple piece of advice. I don't know much. Whatever I know, every bench press that you do, can you do one inhalation and exhalation before every rep? You're done. You're doing yoga. You're doing meditation.
Yeah, I mean, people like the way you describe the breath. Can you have a relationship with your breath? People, oh, this is all woo, woo, woo. Meanwhile, you look at any big lifting program, what is the first thing they teach you? How to control your breathing.
Align, breathe, control. Set yourself, breathe well, and then control the weights. My friend, I was watching him yesterday. He has just enrolled in a yoga program, and I was so surprised. I know him. And I was so surprised to see how much focus he was getting in when he was in a posture. And if there was 5 breaths to be taken, he does 5 inhalation and exhalation. I was like, wow, this is the change this is the change in him which will change him for good in future, because this guy is realizing that how breath is important and what breath does. Because the more I say, the more idiotic I'll sound about breathing, until and unless you guys don't breathe. You know what I mean is that you do yoga, right? How many times your yoga teacher has inculcated that breathing mechanism that needs a posture, needs in a yoga stretcher a posture. A lot of people are training yoga, but are these people training yoga through breath?
You know, it's so funny because once it clicked, you know, for years I used to just wonder, breathe through your muscle. Can you, okay, now you're on the pigeon pose, now breathe through your glute. And I used to just be like, bro, what the does that even mean? How can I breathe through my leg? And then one day you do it. And suddenly you're like, holy shit, I can breathe through my glute.
Yeah.
Like you actually feel your breath going in and out of your glute.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain this to someone except it's totally worth figuring it out.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely. As I said, before every rep is the simple thing, right? Can you inhale and exhale once? Do 12 reps. Don't overcorrect yourself. Get to the basic. 1 breath with every rep. You're done, you're sorted. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to sit in a Padmasana and meditate. That's meditation. That's what we say, that meditation can be anything. It can be me right now talking to you, being fully present in front of you, with you, having a straight conversation, retina to retina. Yeah. I am here. That's meditation.
Is in principle being in the moment.
Is in principle being in the moment. Yesterday, you know what I was doing? The pool was empty and I was swimming blind. I said I would cover the whole distance with my eyes closed. And you know what I realized? I realized a lot of imbalances that I have. I realized how efficient I can be with my eyes closed. I realized what are the dysfunction that is in my body.
Why am I swaying to the left?
I realized that how much less force I was generating through my toes when I was actually hitting the water with the open eyes. Because this becomes the further extremity of your body. The force production was not integrated with my brain, so I realized no, I need to hit left more harder, because I have a slight left leg imbalance, as in I'm not that strong in my left leg as compared to right. That's what I'm working towards, always aligning. And that's where it all changed from a weight loss journey to being matured, understanding like, no, you should think like a performance athlete. And when I say performance athlete, it's a big word, but it can be everybody. Like performance athlete, as basic as what I was saying, that inhale and exhale before every breath.
Yeah.
It must be damn boring for you guys who are doing 12 reps in 30-20 seconds. Do those 12 reps in 1 minute. See the difference.
Okay. I think that's a good message to end on. Thank you, Ritesh. Thanks
you
for
very
being
much,
here.
man.
We'll do this again
Good
soon.
one.